Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Hello. Can you see me, Dr. Penny? Yeah, karibuni sana guys. We're gonna get started here. Join in. I'm trying to set up here. Okay, I think we're good. I have Dr. Penny here tonight. Many of you know her. Dr. Penny is gonna join me from Alabama. Hey, Gina Yako, how are you? Yeah, good to see you, my friend. Kabi, Carolina, karibu sana. Karibuni guys. I have Dr. Penny here. She is amazing. For you who doesn't know Dr. Penny, she's gonna join me from Alabama. So let me see if I can connect her here. Dr. Penny, I see you, and I'm gonna add you here. Alrighty. Tag your friends, guys. Invite your friends to come and watch this because this is gonna be amazing. Dr. Penny, good to see you.
Nice to see you, George.
Yeah. So if you wanna move a little bit this way, there you go. Good. Now I can see you.
Thank you.
Good. I might give you a minute to share this video, or you can invite your friends. You can tag them on this video so they can come and watch it. And I'm gonna do the same here. I'm gonna share the video. All right. Good. Bring your friends, invite your friends, guys. So we can get started. Are you ready, Dr. Penny?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. And I think, hang on. I have shared the video, so this is good. We can get started here. Today's topic, this is gonna be very important because we need this topic. For many of you who know the challenges we are facing here in diaspora, today's topic, we're gonna talk about the suicide, mental illness, alcoholism and drug abuse, and grief, death and grief. Dr. Penny is an expert. She's gonna tell us about this stuff. And Dr. Penny, I'm gonna give you this opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and any area of expertise.
For those of you who know me, I'm Dr. Penny Njoroge. I am located in Birmingham, Alabama. I was born in a generation where girls were not supposed to go to school. So I'll start with there because I know there are many that are thinking that it is too late or you're feeling hopeless and everything. I did not go to school until I was 11 years because my grandfather had sworn that no girls in his family would go to school because he didn't want us to become prostitutes. That's the way it was. And so it costed my father everything when finally at the age of 11, at 10, he got tired of hearing me every morning, I want to go to school. So when he finally gave in, he was chucked out. We were kicked out of the family home, and he did not inherit any land. He did not inherit anything. We were sent away from the family, from the clan, very quickly before Penny became a bad influence, a bad girl in the village. And so it's been a long journey, but I say this not to say what I have done, but to let you know, whoever you are, that you are struggling, that don't forget to chase your dream. Don't let anybody kill your dream, because however long it takes, it will come through. I went to school at the age of 11, finished high school, wanted to become a cardiologist. The first of 11, I had to stop at at the end of Form 4 at Alliance Girls High School. And for that, I was grateful because at least I had had up to 4 years in high school. But I so much wanted to become a cardiologist, but I had to educate my siblings. So there I was. I got married, had my own family, went through big issues. Again, I saw
Yeah.
the hand of God surviving me through domestic violence.
Wow. And I think you're the right person to talk about this, Dr. Penny, because you going to school at 11 years and went all the way to Alliance High School. And look at you here at age of 56, you went back to school and got your PhD in the United States.
Yes.
That is very inspiring. I want to tell us like what areas of because I know what do you specialize with? If you can tell us a little bit about the background, how you went to school for your PhD, and tell us what you specialize with.
I always say that my ministry or my expertise was born out of my own pain because, like I said, I went through domestic violence. I was depressed for a good 25 years as a young mother, as a young wife, as a young professional. And surviving at that time was very hard because we didn't talk about it. You didn't want, just like today, we didn't want anybody to know that you are depressed because who wants to be labeled? I was labeled, I was left out. And I put up a face, I put a fight like all of you who are hiding and covering it up, working and doing the stuff that you're doing, but hiding. But today I know that if it wasn't for God's grace, I wouldn't have survived. Let me admit that I am a suicide attempt. I attempted suicide twice. And I say
Wow.
this to put a face to it and tell you that don't be ashamed that you've gotten there. Any one of us can get that depressed. Yes, I'm a professional. I still have to worry about my family. And I want to put a face to this so that we need to talk about this because if it wasn't for my mother and my children, I shouldn't be alive.
Wow. And I say this because Dr. Penny, I have followed you. Your message is always very positive. We exchanged number about sometimes last year. You always check on me and send these, positive messages. And I would say I think you're one of the most instrumental icons in our diaspora community. And you admitting you you have attempted 2 times to commit suicide. You have endured domestic violence. You have gone through divorce. And I think this is a good conversation starter to see like there's a need for all these conversations that, all this stuff does not have respect of persons. You can be a pastor, you can have PhD, but still you're not immune to these stuff happening in our community. If you can tell us, what the message do you have for those who are still on the fence? They came here in the United States. They have lost hope. Maybe they feel they are too old to go back to school. What message do you have for them?
My message is that whatever you want in life, you must want it about you. When people try to discourage you, you know what you want and you are willing to stand your ground, walk a lonely path. There is a book I have read several times, The Road Less Traveled by Robert Frost. And I would encourage you that if you really know what you want, one, the Bible says that my people perish for lack of a vision. You have to know what you want and want it with such a passion that you are willing to pay a cost for it. It's human. It's fair to say that nothing good comes easily. What you want,
Okay.
you must be willing to fight for it and be ready to walk alone when it is necessary, because as an elderly person, when I chose to go back to school, I lost a number of friends, and I'm not ashamed to admit that because, people were busy telling me that you need to be buying plots, you need to be doing this, you need to be buying things like everybody else, but I had a dream. When I left Alliance Girls High School, I wanted to become a cardiologist. Unfortunately, the same drive that was driving me crazy as a young girl wanting to go to school pursued me even after high school. Every year that I wasn't in college, I was doing seminars, workshops, something to keep my mind afresh until God would open a way for me to come out in the US running for my life. That's life. But when I came out here, I came here, put my son in college. When he finished college is when I found it easier for me to go to school. One, my job was demanding that. And mark you that while I was also going through all this, I was a minister. I was in ministry
Wow.
from high school. So I'm also saying this to my fellow ministers. Let's not be ashamed to say that we are also hurting. We also need help. We need support.
Wow. That's quite good, Dr. Penn. Before we even talk about the stuff which is you know, a lot of stuff happening in our community, like suicide, domestic violence,
Yes.
mental illness, how to deal with death and grief. I want you to tell us about the foundation, or rather, the counseling services you have founded. If you can talk about briefly about the Angel Counseling Services.
Like I said, my ministry or whatever I do was birthed out of my own pain. When I was going through my own depression, it was harsh. Don't talk about it. You know, back in Kenya, we have Madara Institute, where once you get there, it's like your life is doomed. So you don't want anybody knowing you're going through depression. So I never talked about it. The only person who knew about it was my mother and my sister Wamboi. And they were very, very supportive about it. So when I got over it and I came out here, I realized that after surviving domestic violence and also surviving my own suicide, I needed to do something that would help other people not to go through the path, the pain, the loneliness, the isolation I had gone through. And that is why I chose to open up my own angel counseling services to be available for other people, to create an environment where they can come and talk about themselves without feeling shame. I don't hide it from them. I always say, I do not know what you're going through, but I can identify with you, putting a face to it and helping them to feel that it's human to feel lonely, it's human to feel depressed. There's no shame about it, because that is why a lot of people are hiding, you know, suffering in hiding, because once some people hear that you are depressed, they put labels on you. And so I wanted to set an environment, a counseling service that one would help other people, encourage other people, empower other people to live again, because my mother and my sister gave me that chance. And that is why I say that for me, it is a legacy that I am making. I want to give something back to other people, encourage other people. It's never too late to pursue your dream. It's never too late to heal. Mental illness is a sickness just like diabetes or heart ailments. Let's give
Good.
everybody a chance.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, I think you have destined your purpose. You coming from that background, going all through these hardships, now you're here with PhD, and then you have founded these angel counseling services and helping thousands and thousands to regain hope in their lives. I think that is something to be recommendable. Before we go to these, you know, the nitty-gritty about the suicide, the mental illness, I want to read a disclaimer here, because this is not about the diagnosing or treating anybody who is going through that stuff. So I'm going to go read ahead and read a disclaimer here that the opinion expressed on this show is only for education and information purpose only. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms we're going to talk about here, consult your PCP, your physician, before you know, you do anything. We are not here to diagnose or to treat you with depression or suicide. So this is only for information and education purpose only. Let's talk about suicide, Dr. Penny. As you all know, we are being plagued in our community with suicide. It's rampant. It has happened like never before. According to your own research, what would you say is the main cause of this suicide happening in our community here in the diaspora?
This is a very tough topic to discuss, and I think it is the high time we talked about it. My theme has recently been, even when I talk about it on the radio, is we need to unmask. We need to remove the shame. We need to remove the stigma that goes with it, because deal with our mentally ill people the way we deal with those who have cancer. We are kind, we reach out to them, but the unfortunate thing is that because of the stigma and the shame that goes with mental illness, people are killing themselves in hiding, because let me give one example. Somebody tells a friend, please pray for me, I'm going through ABCD. The next thing you see, it is on Facebook. I am on Facebook myself. If I wanted my problems on Facebook, I will do it myself. Those who are suffering will do the same thing. But when people reach out for help, they are asking for help. Please empower me, please encourage me. But a lot of times we are dealing with it the wrong way. We label them, we isolate them, we diminish their self-worth. They're already suffering. They are already feeling that they are good. They are not as good as other people. They are feeling overwhelmed. They are feeling neglected, and the judgmental attitude among us as a people, whether we are talking about it in diaspora. Remember, if I want to look at it in the diaspora community, we already have a lot more issues. Most of us are away from our families. There are young men and women who are here, their parents are back home, children are children, and just as you and I felt lonely and needing our parents between our 20s and our 30s, our young ones out here, they're in college, they are working to make a living. Some of them are helping other people back in their countries. They can barely pay their school fees. As a foreigner, you don't get scholarships, so we work doubles and triples. That's a lot of mental anguish, a lot of mental overloads. And so when they cannot find a person that they can confide in when they are feeling overwhelmed, I'm not doing well in school, I'm not able to keep up with my bills, that alone is enough to kill even the strongest person. So we need to be available for them. We need to be our brothers keepers, our sisters keepers, to encourage them, to empower them. And the other thing is, those who are succeeding, at times we are putting faces that are discouraging other people, where we make other people feel that you are doing so well. If you are doing so well, you are lucky, you are blessed. But please don't use that to discourage another person or make them feel like they're not working hard enough. They may be working harder than you are working, but luck. We are not all endowed with luck, and some of us have to face harder issues than others. Our coping skills are very different also. What is killing one person may be a very small person to another, a very small problem to another person. So I'm asking us to be very sensitive in our language, in our attitude, the way we approach people, the way we talk about people when they tell us they are feeling sad, sadness, loneliness, being overwhelmed. Let's be our keepers.
Yeah, Dr. Penny, before we go far, there's a comment here that I would like to address. Christine Moshana is saying, we are all depressed. It's some people, they are more depressed than others. It's the different percentage of depression. Would you agree with that statement? Because
Yes,
I think I have heard about that, and I think it's good for you as an expert to address that.
I think I would agree that, we joke and say that every one of us has a certain amount of insanity. You may not look at it that way, but you know what, we are all being challenged, but just like our IQs are very different. And it doesn't mean that the person who has an IQ and the other one with a low IQ are different. We are all human beings gifted differently. And the same giftings and the same, the Bible says you are unique in your own way, but you are beautiful. Allow yourself to be where you are, accept where you are, and realize that the coping skills are the ones that make a difference, but we are all going through these challenges. There is a certain amount of emotional challenge, but my coping skills and yours may be very different.
All right, and based on your expertise, what are the signs we need to look for people who are contemplating suicide?
There are very many of them, but I'll highlight one of the things. Let me, before I deal with that, let me give some of the reasons why we have increased suicide rates. Social isolation.
Okay.
We have, some of the reasons that suicide is on the increase is, people are self-isolating, socially isolating themselves because they feel inadequate, afraid of failure. They feel like other people are doing better than them. And sometimes because of the shame and the stigma that goes with mental illness, people don't want to admit that I'm suffering. I admitted that I suffered from depression for 25 years. But let me also admit that at that time, I did not even want to acknowledge it because I was afraid of being labeled. And so we do it in hiding. So the hiding from other people also diminishes the kind of support you can get, because you don't tell people what you are going through. That's one thing. The other one is lack of funding for mental illness. You know, we are funding cancer, but how much funding do we have for research on mental illnesses? So a lot of times we are guessing, but if there was enough funding and enough insurance, people without insurance cannot even go out there and get help. So that is why we have so many of them. Then we are also being sidelined. I'm using we because I was there,
Yes.
and who knows, I could not be there tomorrow. I'm putting a face to this. You just need one catastrophe. It may be the loss of a loved one to grieve, or your children are failing, and very quickly that you find yourself sliding into depression, sliding into looking for quick fixes. That's why some of us are ending up in alcoholism and drugs. Then the other single factor is financial and relationship problems. You have a family, you are not making enough, you cannot even do enough for your family. You are feeling inadequate, marriages are breaking, we are losing our homes to foreclosure. Little things that may not be big to one person are killing another person, and so we need to be sensitive. When somebody tells you that their house has gone on a foreclosure, how do we react? You don't plan your finances. Are you really sure? Or you hear somebody's children are going on drugs, and you quickly judge them that they have not taken care of their children. There could be so many problems. You judge them for not being available for their children. Why are they not available? They are overloaded by financial responsibilities, so they are doing doubles and triples. They don't want to be there, but this is where we need to talk as a community and prioritize. What do we need most? Is it buying that bicycle, buying that big home, buying that big car? Or is it being available for our children for a season until they grow up and we can invest and do all these things we are doing? And you asked me about the signs.
Yeah. And Dr. Penny, before, when you talk about the insurance,
yes,
I know I myself, including me, sometimes we are hesitant to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist to tell them you want treatment because you're afraid the insurance company doesn't now cover, stuff like that. Do the insurance companies really cover for the mental illness? Like if you go to the psychiatrist, and if I come to Angel Services because you have that practice, do they cover that, or is something that it has to be covered by out of pocket?
Unfortunately, a lot of insurance companies do not cover mental
that's
illness.
what I thought. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the people who come to me have no insurance, and if they do, they're also afraid of losing their jobs. That is another issue. People are not coming out and saying that I need treatment. That there are some companies that offer counseling services, but people are afraid of admitting I need counseling because they're afraid of losing their jobs. That's another big one.
All right. What do we need to do when we taking care of these people who are contemplating, suicide? Because you have had in the recent past, some people, they have killed their own family members. How do we need to go about this without risking our own life? Because some suicide can be self-inflicted, and they also lead to homicide. Some people, they can shoot their family members, like one case that happened in New Jersey. What do we need to do to be very careful, as long as we are advocating for these people who are going through these issues, not to risk our own lives?
In answering that, I'll bring in domestic violence. And domestic violence is not just between the spouses, it also inflicts pain in the children. One way of dealing with it is, let's not cover it up. It may be that it doesn't happen overnight. Things start changing gradually. But sometimes because of the shame and the stigma that goes with it, we keep on covering these things. Instead of encouraging them and telling them that they do need help, we cover it. they cover it, and before you know it, it is too late, they explode. It's just like having pus in a wound. You are a nurse yourself, you're in medicine, and until you remove stuff from a wound, it doesn't heal. The same thing goes with mental illness and what is leading to suicides and homicides. We are covering up stuff. We are not prioritizing in what do we need to talk. A lot of times the person who is sick doesn't even want to talk about it. They are hiding, they are running, they are ashamed of it. So the approach we have with them is very important. Are we judging them? Are we condemning them? Do we take trouble to find out why is this person changing from a jovial person to somebody who is very, so angry, temperamental, very moody? What is going on? You know your person. If it's a child, you see them changing from performing well in school to performing very poorly. You know your spouse. You see their mood swings. Don't ignore that, because a lot of times we end up saying, I wish I paid attention. And if they are not willing to go for help and you can see they are risking their life, sometimes you need to take care of yourself, move out of that environment, get help for him and get help for the other family members. Don't wait until it is too late.
Yeah, and I can say myself, on my case, I think I've been forming several projects here when it comes to the mental illness and suicide. A few months ago, I think last month, we went to Unmasking Yourself conference, which was hosted by Duchess and Duchess Ministry. And the founder is Kemi Nyakundi, and I think she's watching here. I think as a community, we are trying, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't know whether you have any more suggestions as a community to come and just put all the hands on deck, just to make sure no more of this stuff is going to happen, because it's too frequent. Like today, you hear there's a suicide. Tomorrow, there is somebody going through depression. It's so much stuff coming up at the same time. What are some of your suggestions as an expert, as a community, we need to do to demystify or even to curb these, the suicide, mental illness, depression, plaguing in our community? What do you suggest?
Let me speak as one who has been wounded by suicide, because a year ago I lost my niece to suicide. So I'm not talking just as an expert, but as one who has been affected. And one of the things I am asking and I've been saying is, let us talk about these things. It's long overdue that we talk about this in open forums. What's going on? What is leading let's talk to our young ones, because as we are talking, we have had 4 suicides within the last 30 days, and that is far too much. We are losing our future. Yeah, it is too much, because I'm thinking about the families that are currently planning a funeral. We have 2 going on at the same time, 2 within our community within that time. It's way too much, and we need to come out and have forums, talk about it. Let the churches be open enough and say, you know what, it is happening right within our communities also. Let's remove the shame and say, it's no longer out there, but it is within us. And if you hear somebody has lost a child or a spouse to suicide, let us watch our language. Let's be careful what we are saying, because when it happens to one person and people know that this is what happened to this family when they lost a loved one to suicide, I know for a fact, because when we lost our loved one, a lot of rumors were spread. And those rumors don't help anybody. If anything, they stop the family from talking and sharing what might help other people. Because when you talk about people when they are grieving and wounded, and you block that communication, and you block future communication, you block conversations that can help us save another life. I would not want any other family to go through what we went and what we are still going through, because we lost a young lady who was the future for us, a very intelligent one. And so I can identify with families. What do we need to do? We need to talk about this and admit that this is a sickness. If we are facing cancer and raising funds for cancer, encouraging and taking meals for families that have heart ailment in their families, what are we doing when we hear that So and so child is going through depression. We isolate them. We tell our children, don't relate with so and so because they are doing drugs. And what we are failing to realize is that unless we gang up together and help this family, it is a scourge, it is an epidemic that is very quickly spreading. We need to gang up together just like we did with the AIDS. There was shame, but now it has
Yes.
been contained. We can do it, but we need to talk to
Yeah.
one another. We need to stop judging and condemning them, but being there for them and letting them know that we are not here to judge, because you know what, Georgie, you and I can be in this boat tomorrow. How do I want to be treated? How do you want to be treated? Whoever is listening, how do you want
Okay, I think I lost you there for a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. To sum up what you have said, you are a reverend and you are an expert on this topic. All I can say, I think as the church leaders, they have some catching up to do. I don't think I have seen all these effort. I have seen it from the people who are, the lay people, like people who have started like these ministries. But I don't think, honestly, have seen it on the churches, on the reverend, the church leaders. I haven't seen that, like, all these movements. I have seen it outside the church. Do you have anything to add to that? Like the church, they have some, catching up to do when it comes to their congregants and, help to cover all these, the depression and mental illness.
I do admit that there is work for us to do as ministers, as you know, and this goes for all of us, not just the ministers, but people of all professions. Let us take it as our own responsibility instead of waiting. I'm waiting for Dr. Penny. And by the way, I'm available to go to any state. I'm available to travel internationally now. This is what I want to do. But yeah, we need to talk about it and not be ashamed about it, because it's a prevalent thing. And let us, just like we talk about salvation in churches, I'm a minister, I talk about salvation, but I also talk
Yes.
about the practical issues of life. Drunkenness, drug abuse, domestic violence. Let's not spiritualize issues so much that we stop addressing the real issues that are actually eating our congregations. And I know that there are many ministers who are doing this, and I commend them for that. I also encourage our ministers and our pastors to take an extra step. Let us get a lot more people trained as professional counselors, because a lot of times and I will say this for myself, before I took professional training, I know I said stuff that today I look back and I think I said stuff that were hurting people. And so that is why I'm encouraging as many of us as possible to take an extra step and do some training. Let us equip ourselves,
Yes.
because this is on the increase. We need to get ready. We need to be empowered. We need to know what we are talking. I told you at the beginning that yes, at 71, I'm still on my books. That is the only way I can talk and be current with what is going on. I cannot talk about what I did 20 years ago and still expect that I am relevant. I have to keep on abreast. There is a lot of information on the internet. Go out and get it. If you are a mother, learn more and more about mental illness, so that when your children start changing, you can tell when there are differences. If you are a teacher, get yourself informed as a counselor, because these things are going to pass your way. Georgie, as a nurse, you know what you deal with. I mean, as a medical professional of whatever level you are, you know you are dealing with it everywhere, from the ER into the units, wherever you are, you will face it. And so instead of me guessing what I am saying, I have learned to keep myself informed, to keep looking, to keep learning, because mental illness is also transforming itself and becoming a lot more complicated. Just like
Yeah.
anything else, we need to keep ourselves informed.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Players only won't help. The professional only, they cannot be able to curb these, epidemic. It's need all hands on deck, like the parents, like the counselors, like the pastors in church. It's everybody to be our brother's keeper. Let's move
Yes.
to the next topic. The next topic is suicide. I have talked about it here on this show, and I want to hear your views about depression. And when it comes to depression, many people, they say you have to seek some sort of, help, whether it's psychotherapy, whether it's spiritual, whether it's pharmacotherapy. According to your own research, what works best? Is it a combination of all of those, or do you prefer like going to one, treatment than the other? I want to hear your views on that.
I think I'm very open-minded when it comes to this, and my benefit is working in a hospital where I work as a counselor, as a psychologist myself, but I work along psychiatrists. I do not prescribe medicine, but I work with doctors who are prescribing medicine, and I always tell my patients that keep up with your medication, because medication sometimes will help you maintain and manage your symptoms. But for me as a counselor, my work is to work alongside the patients and help them discern what is the cause of your problem. So we work alongside both the doctor, the medical doctors, the psychiatrists who prescribe medication, and for those of us who are counselors and therapists, guiding them how to cope with their symptoms, helping them. But I would not tell anybody to stop, and this is one mistake we do, where a patient has been prescribed some medication to manage their symptoms, to maintain them, to sustain them. And then a family quickly tells them, oh, you don't need those pills. Yes, you don't, but don't drop them overnight. You crash. And there is a reason why God gave doctors wisdom to prescribe medicine. I have to use pain medication myself, but my saving grace is praying that God help me not to get addicted to pain medication, because that's also another issue. But we have to use both, and I believe that the medicine has its own place, but don't overdo it. Wean yourself out of it gradually, but don't stop your medication instantly just because you are praying. I am a praying woman. I pray for people. That's what I do as a board certified chaplain. But I also tell my patients, please keep up with your medication. Keep up with your doctor's instructions as we pray for your medication, as we pray for your symptoms to change, as I guide you to discover what is causing this problem. Why are you becoming so moody? Why are you losing interest in life? But I cannot tell you that overnight this is going to happen. So we do need to work together. All disciplines in the medical field need to work together to help our people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, because I have had some misconception. People tell you, oh, you need to pray. Don't do those medication. It's gonna affect you.
Yes.
And even you're not gonna take any medication. You just don't wean them. You just don't taking them. You wean them gradually, because there are some chemical imbalances on these medication you're taking.
Exactly.
And I think I like you, very open-minded. You clarifying about these when it comes to the medication. Now, the other thing, and now you can attest to this, Dr. Penny, is social stigma. I cannot stress this enough. If somebody come here on Facebook, they say they're depressed, you can see how many people our community is very judgmental. You don't tell anybody about your stuff. They're gonna be talking to somebody else, even like people you expect, like our pastors, they don't have that confidentiality. I think when it comes to social stigma, I think this is one of the biggest things that we still have to deal with in order to curb the mental illness and depression. What do you say about that?
I want to bring it home and let you know that, say to all of us that unfortunately none of us is exempted. I'm a minister myself, but I admitted I dealt with it. I have dealt with suicide in the family. I am a mother of 6. I cannot say that it is an easy walk, that my children are not going to face issues. So one thing we are going to be very careful is the Bible actually tells us, treat other people as you would want them to be treated. If you woke up tomorrow and you're depressed, how do you want me to treat you? That should be our turning. The charity begins at home. If I am going to expect you to respect me despite the fact that I am depressed, I need to do it in action. I need to be there for other people. We need to be attentive. We need to be able to listen, to show care to other people, understanding, be available and create an environment that is not judgmental, because this, if it has not hit your family, I promise you, And I'm not wishing
Okay.
anybody any harm, but it can happen to any of us. So be careful, because what you do to other people can very easily end up in your own family, in your own children. So be there for the parents and the spouses who are struggling with fellow family members who are going through this, because they will be your support tomorrow.
And nobody is immune. Let's move on to the other topic, alcoholism and drug abuse. Our community, we have a problem.
Yes.
When you hear about drugs, and I'm going to talk about alcohol, we are drinking too much. What, according to your own research as an expert, why are people drinking too much? When it comes to the parents, children's, grandfathers, grandmas, everybody's drunk. Like, why are we drinking all this? Why are we drinking too much? Why?
It's a very complicated issue, but you know what? Mental illness, alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence, better believe it, they tie into one another very easily, because sometimes people go into drinking, they would never have drank in the past, but they are overwhelmed by issues, and instead, because we are lacking community, we don't talk to one another. We are a lot of the times we are dealing with social media, we are on the Facebook, but we do not have those, tit-a-tit communication where I can ask you a question, where you said it at the beginning, and that is my nature, wanting to call somebody and find out, how are you doing? Since when did you talk to somebody and call them and find out, how are you doing? A lot of the times when you meet somebody, whether it is in church, whether it is in their work, it may be a colleague, they miss work. How often do you think of calling them to find out why are they not coming to church? We miss somebody and we move on. And before you know it, the next thing you hear that this person was found dead in the house. Alternatively, they lack human touch. We are relational human beings. They lack that. What do? The beer becomes a companion. A drug becomes a companion. Illicit sex becomes a companion, because they are missing out on the right communication. They are missing out on friends. And I said we socially isolate ourselves. Sometimes we are the ones to blame, because when you have a problem, we have broken trust. Confidentiality is a very big issue in our community, where I'm suffering, and instead of reaching out to me, you're asking the third party, have you heard Penny is doing this and Penny is missing? Come and ask me. If you care about me, come and ask me. If you notice my mood swings, please approach me and ask me. Don't go to the third person, because the next time I know I have a problem, I'm not going to share it with you. If I know that you are going to tell the third party and I wanted it, empower me to deal with my problem. Help me discern what I need to change. Sometimes I need to change something. It may be a character issue. We have lots of behavioral issues. We're living in a culture that is very different than where we grew up. So there are, complications all around us. Who do I tell my problems? Who can I trust? Who is going to reach out to me? And if you are going through these things, remember that it is your life. You have only one life. Reach out. And I have children who keep on telling me, Mommy, you need to talk to somebody about what you're going through. And I know sometimes I hide, but I have to admit that we do need one another. So we need to be available to one another. We need to be open-minded, less judgmental, less condemning other people. Listen more before you talk about another person, before you tell them what to do. Allow them to talk their mind out. That is one thing that is leading people, that if all I get from you is condemnation, then let me drink, let me do some substance abuse, because for a few minutes I'll be sober. The unfortunate thing is that it is only a temporary fix. Can we come up with strategies? Can we come out with solutions?
Yeah, and I might say, in our community, I think we need to be a little bit more compassionate, as somebody have said here on the comment, because all I see is people tearing each other's down. We are our own worst enemies. We don't like each other, and we have come from very far. All I see in social media is beefs, people doing crazy stuff over there. I think we have a problem, but it's good to admit that, and I think we need to rectify and see how we can move together as a community. The other question I'm going to ask you, Dr. Penny, when you are at alcoholism, drug abuse, people, they keep on justifying themselves. Or my dad was a drunkard, my grandpa was a drunkard. Is there any correlation between the alcoholism? Is it genetically predisposed for your own research, you as an expert? Because that's one thing people, they're justifying themselves. I cannot stop drinking because I come from a family which we drink too much. What are you going to say to that kind of a person?
You know what, let's face the reality. I come from a family that was originally, made up of drunkards. My father was a drunkard until he was 75, God saved and got out of it. And my brothers have been predisposed, and a lot of other people can see the same thing. But you know what? You grow, after 18 years, you make choices. You have to identify what good is it doing to me. Yes, my father might have drunk. Yes, my parents were drunkards, but you get over 18 and you have to make a choice for yourself and for your family. You know what it is doing to you. Is it hurting you? How long are you going to continue blaming your past for your future?
Yes.
Because you have to face the reality. You know well enough that it is hurting you, so do something about it. Get help. There we have rehabs. Go for a rehab. And a lot of people, we are having to force them to go into rehabs. They come out and go back to the same thing. I feel for them, but at the same time, I want to admit that our people don't want to be. A lot of it is take responsibility, because some people are good enough to be dependent on other, and also we are also creating codependency by continuing doing stuff for people. That we have people who are codependent, but we are also enablers in a lot of ways. Let's face the reality that yes, there is predisposition, but we also have to make choices. Just like your child, you teach a child to learn new things every year. From class 1 to 2, they don't learn the same things, but they also have to make a choice that I am no longer in standard 7. I'm no longer in Form 3.
I can agree. We
So
have
there
to
is a lot of, there is a lot that we need to come up and say that I do need to take responsibility. My father did it. My mother did this. I grew up selling metal, selling bones in the slums of Nairobi. I could, and my mother kept on telling us that you have grown poor, yes. You don't always have to be poor. Am I saying I have reached? We are still struggling, but I refuse to stay where I started. And I'm challenging each one of us. I'm not saying it is easy, but I'm challenging us. Whether it is advancing yourself, academically or whatever, business-wise, but make a choice that I don't always want to be who I am today. And I don't want my children to be who I am today. I'm praying that they can be better, they can have better lives than I did. Our parents, your parents told us, you have to make a better life for yourself. That's why we left Africa. That's why we are here, going back to school at later on in life, because I want to advance myself. Is it easy? It's not. And I hear you. I'm not saying it is an automatic thing, but you have to make a choice. And we have to be examples, role models for the generations that are coming after us. Our children are watching. My grandchildren sit with me around the table doing homework. What am I telling them by being lazy? What am I telling them by making a choice just to do things, they taking the easy way out? Their choices, yes, we can say we were exposed to that, but we are grown. I mean, let us seek help. There is help out there. Get counseling, go to a rehab, but don't quit on yourself. Don't just give up because you found it happening in your family.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Penny. And somebody said, well, I was listening to this guy, he said, we can also pray for the generational curses. You can break that curse and be a life change. You may change your life, and you don't have to be like your father or your grandfather, for that matter. Let's talk about our last topic here. And this is the topic that I've really thought about, death and grief. And how to cope with it. If you can tell us some of the ways, some people, they have lost their siblings, their spouses, their parents. How do we cope with these, the death? And I know you're an expert on this, and grief. What are some of the ways, the coping mechanism of these, the death and grief?
One of the things that will help us to deal with grief, and a lot of us, especially those of us who are in diaspora, you lost your mother, you never went to bury them. I am one who I have lost about 5 of them. Now I can go and bury somebody, but my mother died, my father died. I never came to any closure because I couldn't travel to go bury them. You can imagine what that has done to me and to many others in our diaspora community, where the people back home are judging you. And what did you find in America that stops you from coming home to bury your loved ones? And I don't blame them because they may not understand the implications of the consequences from coming to terms or coming to closure with our grief. We need, even though we are not going to bury our people physically, we need to talk about what you are going through. Allow yourself to grieve. Give yourself permission to grieve. Stop hiding. Stop being strong, because you know what? Jesus wept when Lazarus died. And I say this, if you're a man, weep when you need to. Cry when you need to, because it is healthy. Let us not deny that I am feeling hurt when I have lost a loved one and I cannot deal with it. Be patient and compassionate with yourself, and be patient with other people who are grieving, who may be behaving weird. Grief is very, very complicated because it's a pain you cannot even put in words at times. Again, depending on the relationship that you had with the deceased, or the way they died, or whether you are able to go out and bury them, to come to some closure with them. Allow yourself to do something. You may not have gone home to, or wherever you are, to bury your loved one, but some of the things we encourage is write a letter to them. Forgive them if there was something that you felt that they have died, we never dealt with this. Please don't continue holding those grievances. And I'm saying this as one who deals with it. I'm human and I struggle with it, but I also want to encourage you that you are not alone. God is also telling us that He is able to wipe away our tears. I wish I could snap it like that and get you out of your grief, but allow yourself to feel the pain. Don't deny that you're hurting. Reach out to other grieving families and share what they are going through. Talk to somebody. Get counseling, because we have a lot of people who are willing to help, but I know sometimes we lock ourselves out. A lot of times we block other people from helping us because I don't want to talk about it. Many other times I feel like I don't want to share my burdens because I don't want to burden other people, and only to find out that actually when I refuse help is when I am not only hurting myself, but I'm also hurting other people. So I'm encouraging us to learn to talk about our problems. Be honest with yourself. I'm hurting. I'm broken. I'm disappointed. I'm even angry at myself. I'm angry at the person who has died. I need help. But a lot of times we want to look like we are coping when really I'm bleeding on the inside, when I'm really needing somebody to touch me, but I want to be bold. Maybe I'm a parent. I want to be bold for my parents. I mean, for my family. But there has to come a time when I have to yield and allow myself to be real. There's nothing shameful about
Yeah,
weeping. There's nothing shameful about saying that I wish I could talk to my mother today. On a day like today, Georgia, I wish my mother was somewhere watching. But you know what? She's no longer there. So there are moments when you have to face the fact that grief is like waves. One day you are coping, another day you are not coping. Talk to somebody. Don't do it alone, because God is telling us you don't have to be alone. I don't have to be alone. And back to the same thing, let us be a community that shows love, compassion, and care for other people. Don't tell me to be strong when I'm weeping. Don't tell somebody to stop weeping just because you are strong. Our coping skills again are very different, but we need to be a community that cares. Let us reach out to one another. Let us be available. You don't always have to talk to somebody when they are grieving. Sit with them like they sat with Job. Allow them to talk, you don't have to have everything to say. I don't always know what to say, but sometimes I just make myself available,
yeah.
a
And
shoulder to
so,
lean on.
so do you recommend counseling when we lose our loved ones? Is that something you recommend um, to go for counseling, or it depends on case to case basis?
No, I do recommend counseling because there is so much you can only cope with so much, and there are people out there willing to help others. But sometimes it is somebody who is not just a professional, but they have also experienced grief. And by the way, I have a book here. I have written a book on grief, and it is Healing Hope for Your Grief and Bereavement. Healing Hope for Your Grief and Bereavement. You can get it as an ebook. You can get it, through Amazon.com. But find yourself some help, because grief is so complicated there, and there are seasons when it may take you 10 years. But if you continue grieving over something, that's when, as a counselor, I end up saying it is becoming complicated grief that is holding you in prison of your mind. You are an example is your mother or your spouse would not want you to continue grieving for 20 years. They want the best for you. Find a way of moving on. I'm not saying it is easy. I have issues with that, but remember, you have your own life to lead. Life has to go on, because unfortunately, whoever is born of woman is going to die someday. Yes, find counseling, find help, and allow me to say this. We are in a society where people don't appreciate counseling. I'm not saying just because I'm a counselor, but there are so many other people you can go to. But find a counselor. There is a place for counseling. There is place for medicine. There is place for pastoral care. We have all these resources, but we are not using all the resources that are available to us. Our ministers are there. Yeah, I'm not saying we are perfect as ministers. Remember, we are human beings. We will make mistakes, but a lot of them are willing to work with you. Not all of them will break your confidentiality. So do not categorize everybody as liars or people who break confidences to the extent that you deprive yourself of help. Look for somebody you can trust. They are there. They are the counselors of different levels. They are Christian counselors all over. And there are people who can help you. There are people who are reaching out to you. Do not block people out of your life just because you are hurting. And again, I say, just like I'm saying, we need to unmask and demystify, mental illness. We need to remove the shame of going to a counselor, because a lot of people are hurting and not going for counseling because they don't want to be known that they have been to Dr. Penny's office. What happens in my office is between you and me. I will not tell your spouse just because they're asking. Once you're over 18, I know professionally that I do not want you disclosing my stuff to my family unless I've given you permission. If you come and tell me you're going to commit suicide, then I'm sorry, I'll let it out. I'll tell somebody to protect you and to protect your family. We are required by law that if somebody threatens suicide, I am required to admit that I know somebody is threatening, because you may tell me that today and then go kill your family tomorrow. I will not live with that. So I know my boundaries. We know our boundaries as therapists and counselors. So use counseling when it is necessary. Do not overburden yourself. Even if you don't have insurance, let me say this, can we learn to prioritize? Is it more important for me to pay for my treatment, or to go for a pedicure, or to go for my hairdo, or to go for, to go buy another car when I know I have this money and I have to balance? Am I going to go for treatment for my depression, or am I going to save this money instead of going for treatment to see a counselor? I'm going to buy another car. You have a car that is functioning. Prioritize what is important for you to invest in. And before I forget, let us learn to invest in our lives a lot more than in land and property. Because if you bought all these things and you're not there tomorrow, and you're not even able to manage your life or that of your family, you can leave all these properties for them. But unless there is a relationship between you and them, and you have taught them how to manage your property, then there is something wrong in our priorities. So we need to prioritize and know what do we value most. A lot of times we are saving this money and taking it to the doctors.
Yeah.
So we need to make a choice.
Yeah, that's true, Dr. Penny, because I can tell you, we have had people, they've been working so much, and the next minute they're found in the apartment dead for days without people knowing them. They isolate themselves. And I think it's for us to change the mindset of how we think about, as much as we want to acquire these, land or have a lot of money, we can have it all. So I think we have to tweak a little bit our mindset and know it's good to socialize with others, when it's necessary. Before I give you the closing thoughts, have you got you and other community members how to curb these suicide, mental illness, alcoholism, drug abuse? Are you in any talks with any of our community leaders or the pastors, whatever, all in the United States? Are you guys coming up with any solution? Because I think it's a high time for us now to do something, and it's much, much, much needed. It's much warranted now. I'm just kind of curious whether you have gotten any words or whether you have reached out to any other brethren on this particular matter.
I thank God that people are opening up. It may be a slow process because, people are resistant to change. Like we said, people did not want to talk about these issues, but I'm getting a lot more invitations. Come, let's talk about this. Although it's in the past, it was like, you are imposing yourself and you're forcing people to talk, but people are beginning to open up to the fact that we can no longer hide, we can no longer be silent, we can no longer pretend it is not happening, because when it hits your home, when it hits your neighbor's house, then you know it is there. And so pastors are beginning to open about it, but I think we are just beginning. I want to encourage us as a community that it is not too late. We can do it. We can change the trend by talking about it, by not covering it up. A lot more people are now admitting that so and so has committed suicide. That's why they are no longer with us. In the past, we would bury them very quickly, and I respect that, because as a family that has gone through it, it's very traumatic. It's very, very traumatizing for the family. So I do not say that it is easy to come out and see that my son or my daughter committed suicide. It takes a lot of guts. And again, we are also afraid, what are people going to say? I said we had rumors going on about our family after that. And so that, I think it is calling for a change in our attitude. The community needs to talk about this. The community needs to be more supportive, more available, more compassionate. Yeah, somebody says, Joanne Mwangi says, charity begins at home. Let's talk about these things from our family. And again, look at your children. They may be young, but we think about depression out there in adults, young adults. But guess what? The children from the age of 3 to 7 are also going through behavioral issues. Sometimes depression begins at a very early age. We think they are throwing temper tantrums. We need to be very, very careful. What are we calling temper tantrums? What are we ignoring? Telltale things. We need to look at these signs where they start isolating themselves. They have temper tantrums, mood swings. They are not eating. They are not sleeping. They are cursing. They are not going to school. They are going to school, but they are not performing. They are not going to work. They are becoming abusive. They are becoming very negative. We need to be alert. We need to be sensitive. Let's stop covering up these things and let us talk about it. Let us admit there is a problem. Instead of hiding and covering it up, let us admit we need to do something, and together don't wait for the other person to talk about it. Do what you can do, because I have my part, you have your own part. Whatever profession you are in, whether you are a mother, a father, a teacher, a nurse, a caregiver, whoever you are, you have your part. And the challenge for us is that as we are losing these people, remember God is asking us, what have you done? What part have I played? I am saying I'm available for conferences. I'm available to speak in churches. I am asking us, let us unmask. Let us demystify mental illness. Let us be caring to these people just as much as we care for people with, other illnesses. When a person breaks their leg, we take care of them. But what about these mental illnesses? You don't see them, but they are suffering. Let us be more sensitive.
Yeah.
Let us be more open-minded.
Yeah, I think there's something you need to clarify there. Somebody say age of 3 to 7 when the kid starts having depression. I think you mentioned about throwing tantrums and behavioral issues. And it can be connected to some sort of going through stuff, not really depression. If you want to, speak to that, I think people are kind of like raising eyebrows here when you talk about 3 to 7 really going through depression. If you want to just mention something about
I'm
that.
glad somebody. I'm glad somebody was paying attention to that, because I threw it out there deliberately. Because remember, we said some of our depression is chemical, biological, biochemical imbalances. It can start anywhere, and a lot of these things. That's why we are calling it an illness. It does not respect age. It does not respect social status. Anybody can have it, but sometimes, just like we talk about, we see that our children are hyperactive. We give them labels, only to find out that what we were labeling, this child was labeled for so many years, but when they were properly diagnosed, there was something that was going on. We kept on beating on them, pinching on them. You need to behave yourself. We are not paying attention. We need to start paying attention from a very early age. You notice that they do diagnose them earlier here than back in Kenya. We will throw them and leave them at home with, they will not even be taken to school, because they were just labeled as developmentally disabled. But there was something else going on. And so that's why I'm saying that, yes, from as early as 3 years, start noticing when your child is behaving in a certain way. Don't just say that they are misbehaving. Why are they misbehaving? They've been behaving well. Why do they suddenly change? Why are they kicking other children? Why are they biting? Why are they no longer eating? Why are they stopped being in bed? Suddenly they are back at that. Isn't that true?
True.
Do I need to ignore that there is bed waiting after they had gone over that? Little symptoms like that need to raise an alarm in your life as a mother, as a father.
Exactly.
Instead of whipping them,
exactly.
Talk about them. And
wow.
You know what?
Wow. Did I lose you, Dr. Penny? I think I lost her. Dr. Penny? Let me bring her one more so she can give her the closing thought. She's coming right back, so she can give the closing thought, then we can end the broadcast for tonight. I'm inviting you, Dr. Penny, if you can come here and give a closing thought so we can finish the broadcast for tonight. I'm not sure what happened. Dr. Penny, if you can see me, just go ahead and join the broadcast so we can finish up. I want you to give your phone number, your address, your email address, how people they can be able to reach you. This is a much needed conversation, and that's good you came to talk about these issues here. Dr. Penny, if you can see me, send a request so we can finish up. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe her phone died, I'm not sure. Okay, if she's not coming up, I can I'm gonna go ahead and give you her email address. It's pennyruth251@gmail.com. PENNY Ruth251@gmail.com, and her phone number is 205-478-146. She is with Angel Counseling Services. She's based in Alabama. So if you want to shoot her an email, maybe she can help you with this. This was a much needed conversation, and I don't see Dr. Penny here, so I'm going to end this broadcast. Thank you guys for watching. wherever you're tuning us. I really, really, really appreciate you guys. It doesn't seem like Dr. Penny is gonna join me, and maybe her phone died. Who knows? But that's her email address. Yeah, pennyruth251 at gmail.com. Thank you guys, and have a good night. That was a really good presentation. And we thank Dr. Penny for joining the Prudential Show. Guys, always looking out for you. Joining me next Tuesday, I think, I'm not quite sure, I will bring East Africa Chamber of Commerce. They're having an event which is coming in October. So I'm trying to liaise with them and see where we can meet and do that presentation on next Tuesday. So thank you guys. Have a good night. Bye.